Can you please pick up your microphone?
Can you please pick up your microphone?
Hey, cunts.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of Hot and Bothered. I'm Chris Bruno.
And I'm Cedar Champ.
And in this podcast, we talk about everything that we find hot as fuck.
And everything that bothers the shit out of us. We've both had like relatively uneventful Labor Day weekends and have very little to talk about.
As it is Labor Day and we are sitting here on the couch.
Literally.
It's prime Labor Day time, 1 p.m.
It's 1 p.m. on Labor Day.
We're not, like, what do those people go to? Is it like a Nobu thing?
I don't know. Is that what people do on Labor Day?
I think that's the 4th of July.
Well, I'm a poor LA girl, so I wouldn't know.
Me too.
No, it is the 4th of July. People go to Nobu.
Mm-hmm. That white party thing.
Yeah.
It's very like
Which, haven't we already decided that white parties are like, it's like racist? Or is that wrong?
I don't know. I think it is a bit tacky, but
it is
do
a little
love a white
tacky.
party, actually. I don't know what I'm talking about.
We're so far away.
I'm like on the therapy couch and you're over there in your doctor's chair.
Can I therapize you today?
Yes, therapize me.
Okay, let's get started then, Chris. As your therapist, I'm interested to hear, are you hot or are you bothered today?
I'm bothered today.
Can you tell me more about that?
I'm actually quite bothered because I had something happen to me over this past week that was actually not only traumatizing, but was something that I would consider one of my biggest fears. And I experienced it and I lived through it.
And you're here to tell the story.
And I'm going to make this quick.
No, we have literally 45 minutes of time to fill, and we have nothing to talk about except for this. So drag it out as long as you like.
So this guy was coming over. He was really cute. I was stoked to meet him. Actually, why am I saying I was stoked to meet him? I wasn't, but I was like, whatever.
Well, but he also had a cool job, and so we were like kind of interested in him.
Yeah, it was quite intriguing. We're not going to disclose those details, but...
Can we give him a nickname since we're just here?
I think that we have to get through the story and then we can assign a nickname.
Okay.
Because the context of the story will be...
so significant.
Yes.
Okay.
So he was coming over. We had plans for him to come over at like 8 p.m. And 7:45 rolls around. I was like getting out of the shower. Doing a light little pickup around the house, you know, just...
Chris actually manic cleans about 3 times a day. So
I
when he says
don't, and
he says light little pickup, he means that he was frantically scrubbing every inch of his apartment.
Correct. And I'm like kind of cleaning back and forth between the bathroom, like, you know, doing my hair and makeup, etc. I walk out of the bathroom. And something catches my eye. And it was, I'm just gonna come out and say it was a fucking gigantic cockroach. And it was a cockroach that was the size of my parents' 20-year-old Jack Russell. Like, it was humongous.
'Tis the season, baby.
And this poor cockroach, like, was looking at me like it didn't want to. It was like, I don't want to be here. Like, it was like,
I don't know how I got
usually
here.
when I see a bug, I was going to say an animal, like, I run for the fucking hills. But I was in, like, fight or flight mode because I had this person literally about to pull up to my apartment.
No, there could not have been worse timing.
And I also was like, I wasn't afraid of this cockroach. It looked really innocent. It looked like it was, like, nervous. It didn't want to be here.
Wait, I have never felt sympathy for a fucking bug in my entire life, but this is making me sad.
Literally, like, I felt bad. Like, I was like, you don't want to be here as much as I don't want you here. And I've said this, and I'm going to say it again, but it's probably going to sound like I live in a bug-infested hoarder apartment, but I've never seen a bug here, ever. And I was really fucking confused. So I do what I do best. I start panicking. I start profusely sweating.
Chris is the queen of panic.
I couldn't even... I had the vacuum out because I was actually vacuuming. And I couldn't even... Usually, like, when I see a bug, I'm like, okay, just get the vacuum and, like, do the hose and whatever. And...
I never trust that. Like, if it's not squished, then I can't trust that it's not gone.
Well, I was just going to, like, vacuum it and then, like, dump out the vacuum and then take out the trash.
Right.
Because I don't want it, whatever. So I try to kill it. I like grab a sandal and I smack it, not a flip-flop. Don't worry. I grabbed like a rubber sandal and I was like trying to kill it, and then it was like crawling, and like that little like thing.
So wait, did you swing and miss, or you hit it and it just didn't die?
I think both. I was blacked out.
Okay.
I don't remember. And then it was
no
like
way,
crawling
Chris,
over
being
there.
Intoxicated?
No, I was sober. And then I was...
Oh, it was like a rage blackout or like an anxiety blackout.
And it was like crawling over there like on that like basket thing that's like the same color as a cockroach. Mm-hmm. But the fucking antennas were like 2 feet long.
No, they're so long. It's the freakiest thing.
Disgusting. I don't have bug spray. I grabbed Windex and I fucking sprayed the fuck out of that whole corner. Like this cockroach like was like quivering, like whatever.
This is actually kind of a sad story.
It was so disgusting. It gets more sad, but it gets more fucking sad for me.
Okay.
So I'm fighting this cockroach. I'm trying to fucking kill it. And then I don't remember what happens, but it crawls into this wall heater. It crawls into the wall heater.
Okay, so for context, Chris has like one of those long skinny heaters. Like what are they called?
Like, I don't know. It's like above like the baseboard. It's just like a line.
Yeah, it's like a baseboard. I think that's what they call it, a baseboard heater or whatever. So Chris has one small one of those in his living room, and the cockroach crawls inside of it.
And I was like, beautiful. Get out of here. That's probably where you came from. I don't care. I wasn't going to turn on the heater because it was 200 degrees in here and I didn't want to have fried cockroaches. Like, I wasn't about to do that.
He's like, I'm coming over for dinner. You're like, perfect. I'm cooking fried cockroaches.
Literally. So it goes back in there and I'm just like, I literally am just fucking spraying the fuck out of this heater with Windex. So one whole corner of my living room is just covered in Windex.
So now the apartment smells just strictly of Windex.
Exactly. And I like literally put on like shorts and a t-shirt. I'm like, this guy's going to be here any minute now. Like, I'm just going to act like that never happened. I'm just manifesting that this cockroach is long fucking gone. So then I start manic cleaning again. I hear helicopters outside.
Oh, wait.
I hear SWAT teams outside, which is normal. Why are you laughing?
I just wanted to add that in between that time frame from when you saw the cockroach initially to when you started to manic clean again, there was also 2 frantic phone calls to my phone of you panicking. You wouldn't even admit at first that it was a cockroach. You were like, I didn't think it was a cockroach. You were like, I just saw the biggest fucking bug I've ever seen in my entire life.
I didn't think it was a cockroach.
I think it took a full day for you to admit to me that it was a cockroach. Well, I showed the picture
of it to 100 people and they're all like, that's a cockroach. And I was like, that doesn't look like a cockroach.
You took a picture of it?
I feel like it's here.
So... Okay. So there's SWAT teams outside.
They're
They're all coming for the cockroach.
Is, like, parked outside. So this guy, I checked my phone like 5 minutes later, and the guy was like, "Oh, I'm here. I'm parked." And I was like, "Oh my god, fuck!" So I call him, and I was like, "Here's the gate code. Come inside. I'll run down and meet you." I go down there, and he's like walking into the lobby, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on outside?" And he was like, "There's like 15 cops out there. They told me that like I have to get inside immediately, like
and this man indoors. Is like literally trapped like, outside with no access to your building, and you're like over here running around screaming because of this bug.
Exactly.
There's a serial killer on the loose, and this guy is like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah. So I
focus.
So I go downstairs, meet him, whatever. We come upstairs. He tells me what's going on down there. I'm like, I can't, like, I'm just like, great. Like, welcome to the neighborhood, babe. We come inside. He's really cute, like, like strikingly handsome. Very handsome. I'm like, I feel like there's bugs around me right now. I'm really scared.
This story is giving you PTSD.
It's giving me PTSD. So he comes inside, whatever. I had a really nice bottle of wine from a client. It was literally like a $1,000 bottle of wine. I didn't have any. I had like literally $1,000 bottle of wine and an $8 bottle of wine, and I was like, fuck it, like let's just drink this. So I actually, so one, cockroach, two, SWAT team outside, three, I open this bottle of wine, the cork breaks fucking 6 times.
No.
The bottle of wine is from like 1999.
No.
Like literally keeps breaking. I'm like, can you just do this? Like I was like, I don't give a fuck.
That is so annoying.
Yeah. May I add though, like when you meet someone, sometimes you're like fake and nervous. You know what I mean? And you like kind of, but for some reason with this guy, like I didn't.
You're
give
like,
a
I don't
fuck.
give a fuck.
I was like, I literally do not care. Like
You're
I'm
probably like just so burnt out on these interactions with men that you're just like, whatever at this point.
Literally, I was just like, I don't care.
You're like, oh, here, do you want to drink this really nice bottle of wine? Actually, this is too much trouble for me. You figure it out and then we'll drink it.
That's actually what happened.
Perfect. I think that's a really good attitude to have when you approach dating.
I was just like, I don't fucking care. So we open the bottle of wine, we do a little cheers, and then we walk over to the living room and sit down on the couch. I sit down on the couch, and it catches my eye. The cockroach, like half out of the heater.
Little dark flicker out of the corner
Literally,
of your eye.
like the bottom half of it is sticking out of the heater.
No.
I swear to God.
Like ass out. Like he was like, he was taunting
like
you.
wiggling, like she was shaking her ass.
Yeah, she was twerking.
And
she was like, come get me, big daddy.
He sits over on this side of the couch, and I'm on the side like closer to the window and the heater. I literally like adjust myself so he like covering, so like he can't see what's going on over there. And then I just like put my wine down on the coffee table, and then I see it again, and I was like, dude, I'm so fucking sorry. I was like, I didn't tell him that I had this fucking bug before, because I was like, I do not want this man to know what I went through earlier. I'm going to act like it would be more embarrassing for me to be like, oh yeah, that was here earlier and I couldn't kill it. So I just acted like it was the first time that I saw that.
Well, and also it's like, okay, like you and I both live in gorgeous apartments. Like we're very lucky in that way, but like it gives off the idea of like you live in like some weird, gross, like bug infested place.
Exactly.
When they're not familiar with like the place or like your apartment or your space or in like your cleanliness level, like the last thing you want to do is be like, oh yeah, I have a cockroach as a fucking roommate.
Yeah. So we can call this guy the cockroach guy. And it was actually really funny because I was telling my friend about this the next day, and she was like, you will forever be the cockroach guy, and like to this man. Like you will forever be like
this
the
isn't
guy
a love
with the
story.
cockroach.
This isn't a fairy tale ending.
Fuck me. Like I was like, fuck you for telling me that, and also fuck me for like.
Honestly, yeah, your friend really told it to you straight.
I was like, thank you. I really needed to hear that. I will never live that down. So cockroach is sticking out, and I literally was like, I'm so sorry, but like I'm having a panic attack right now. I literally told him that. I was like, there is the biggest bug I've ever seen, like dangling out of the heater right now.
Chris is like, not only do I live in a bug infested apartment, I also have an anxiety disorder. Here you go.
Yeah. So he was really chill about it. He was like, but I mean, what are you going to do? Like,
yeah.
He was like, oh my God, like, it's okay. He's like, just like smack it. So I get up, I'm like trying to smack it, but it's like half in the heater. So it's like, you can't really like hit it.
You can't really actually fully execute that plan until it's fully out of the heater. Like you have to have full access to make sure you're actually taking care of it.
And not when it's like wedged underneath like a little panel thing.
Absolutely.
So I don't really remember what happened. Again, I was blacked out, but I tried to kill it, tried to like smack it, get it out of there. Again, flight or fight mode. And he was very supportive, very sweet. And I tried to kill it. I think it went back into the heater.
Oh my God.
And at this point, I don't know. I went to go wash my hands because I was like trying to kill it. And I don't remember what was on my hands. I honestly, whatever. I went and washed my hands. As I'm washing my hands, I just hear him murdering this fucking bug. I just hear him murdering. Like the shoe is like bang, bang, bang. And I was like literally like serial killer, like banging, like a dozen bangs.
Does that
And I was like,
I'm wet from that.
and I was
That
like,
turned me on.
Like, literally, I was like, baby, I think it's dead. Like, I was like, by all means, but I'm like, I think it's dead. You know what I mean? I was like, we don't need to smack it again. Like, I think it's dead.
So he just like rage murdered this cockroach. But like,
And
I
then
think that's kind of hot because you like walk away. You're like going to just go like clean your hands really quick. And he's like, you know what?
Well,
I'm going to just take matters into my own hands.
I think it came out of the thing, and then he killed it.
That actually kind of sounds like a little bonding moment.
It
like
was,
a cute first date bonding moment.
And then after that, I was just like, I don't fucking, like, do you want to know my deepest, darkest secrets?
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed, but he was like, it's fine. Like, I've seen it all. He was like, I lived in New York for like 10 years. At least it's not like a rat. Like, he's
so
like,
true.
I had the biggest cockroach I've ever seen like 2 weeks ago on my counter. And I was like,
okay, on the counter, that's
I know.
a different story.
Told me that. I was like, at least mine was like by an open window.
It was like, yeah, and like on the floor.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't on your
like,
counter.
No.
I also, as you know, a couple of weeks ago, I've never, ever, ever, ever had bugs in my apartment. And I love my apartment for that reason because I'm the biggest little bitch when it comes to bugs. And a few weeks ago, I was literally, this is so embarrassing, I was literally sitting in my kitchen coloring. I was coloring.
You have,
because I'm unemployed and I have nothing but better to do. I'm coloring and I was like, oh, I want some different colors. So I go over to my entertainment center. I see something move out of the corner of my eye and it is legitimately the largest cockroach I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. I've absolutely told you this.
Just again, I don't listen to a thing you say.
Exactly. And like I lived in New York for 3 years, so I've seen some big fucking cockroaches. And in one of my apartments in New York, I had cockroaches, but they were like the little ones. And this is the first time I've ever seen like a cockroach of that magnitude inside a space that I'm living. Anyway.
So it was probably as big as my roommate.
Yeah, exactly. We both tried to live alone, but
we have shack up
roommates
together.
Against our own will. Yeah, and anyway, I ended up being able to kill it. And then like I'm like so paranoid about them because they're so hard to kill that like even after I killed it, I trapped it under a plastic container for a while before I like had the emotional strength to like collect it and get rid of it. But yeah, no, like it's so fucking annoying because it's like out of all of the bugs that I could see in my apartment that never has a bug. And it's like the biggest cockroach known to man.
Literally, same here.
And for you, I mean, at least thank God I was at home alone. But like to have that happen like on your first like hangout with a guy, horrible.
I did get a missed call from him yesterday at 5:55 a.m.
Oh.
As I was going to bed.
As you're going to bed with another man in your bed?
No. I wasn't in my bed.
Okay, so the cockroach didn't really ruin things for him.
No. Oh, and then should we talk about after that guy left? Okay, so that bottle of wine, I had 2 glasses of wine. Obliterated. Like, I was... not while he was here. It was after he left when I was so fucked up. Not even fucked up, like... I can drink and I'm completely fine. Like, I'm always in control of everything. And I was like, I called Cedar. I was like literally having an emotional mental breakdown, which I've never really had before. And
no, actually, you called me crying and I've never even heard you on the phone in a voice note, like across the city. I've never, ever experienced you crying.
I haven't either. So I was like out of control emotionally.
Yeah,
I don't know what was in that wine, but like I called Cedar having a mental breakdown.
And usually I'm the one that's having a mentee B.
Yeah.
Like regularly.
I don't know why that fucked me up. And so then Cedar came and picked me up and we bought a pack of cigarettes and Gatorade and just drove in a circle and had a cigarette. And then that calmed me down. Like
teenagers. It
literally
was cute.
Teenagers.
It was kind of wholesome.
It was very, very nice. And then the next day I had like total PTSD. I was like, I can never drink again. Like, that's never happened to me. Like, I know people that get like that every single time that they're drunk. Like,
yeah.
I have a handful of friends who I'm like, that's how they are probably when like That's probably how they feel every time they drink.
Yeah, like out of control, just like emotional,
Yeah,
like just
yeah.
fucked.
I just felt like literally crazy, which that's never happened to me before. And it was really fucking scary, actually. I was like, I can't ever drink again, but I did, and I faced the fear. And
maybe it was just that wine.
dude, I don't know what was in that wine. 2 glasses, and I was like,
well, it was probably fucking tainted since the cork was fucked up.
that whole night was spooky, and it was the fucking blue moon that night. That wasn't blue. I don't
like that
understand.
you used the term spooky. That whole night was spooky.
It was really
Spooky.
weird. Like, it was just weird. Like, the moon, the cockroach, the police, the wine fucking me up.
Yeah, actually, those all sound like really bad omens.
Really
That's
weird.
fucking sketchy as fuck. Okay, but the cockroach is dead. Chris lived to see another day. We're back. We're better than ever, dare I say. Okay, we both have had had a moment to share our cockroach stories. I'm sorry for that experience that you endured.
It still haunts me. Like, every time I turn a corner, I'm like, baby, are you still here?
Where's the roach? The ghost of roaches past haunts Chris's apartment to this day.
I can't even think about it anymore.
We won't. Otherwise, our skin will start crawling. I was actually over at a friend's house the other day. This is really bad. We were all hanging out. There's 3 of us sitting in the apartment. And one of the friends points at the front door that was like open because there's like a screen door too, points at the front door. And she goes, "Excuse me, guys, I'm sorry, but is that a bug?" And it was just sitting on like the corner of the door. No, it was like blending in like the perfect size to fit the width of the door.
Oh, yeah?
And it was a motherfucking millipede.
Oh, I don't like those.
They never killed it and they never found it.
It's in one of their stomachs. It is in one of their stomachs.
Crawled into one of their ears while they were sleeping.
That is
my worst
almost as
nightmare.
Terrifying as what I experienced.
I haven't been back to visit since
I would never go back, as this man is never, ever coming back to this apartment ever again. I will not allow it. I have way too much pride, even though that's embarrassing. Like, I am too prideful.
Madison and Georgia, if you're listening to this, I love you, and I'll be back soon, babies. Even though you have a millipede living in your house.
Or in one of your stomachs. Okay, are you hot or are you bothered? Let's talk about that. That's
okay,
probably...
actually, you know what? This week I am bothered.
Shocking. Oh my God, I would have never guessed.
And you want to know why I'm bothered? Because of the existence of straight men, essentially, which is also equally as shocking.
Wow.
I know, breaking news this week. And it's a doozy. No, I'm bothered this week because I am frustrated with, like, a straight man's inability to, first of all, see women as human beings, but second of all, like straight men see women as sexual objects, essentially, so much so to the point where they can't ever really have friendships with someone of the opposite sex, which is really frustrating because, like, I was just venting about this with a friend yesterday, and I hate to be one of those girls, but I am going to be one of those girls.
You are literally that girl.
I am that girl. I get along really well with straight men, and it's not just because I'm a pick-me girl, which, let's be honest, we all are a little bit sometimes.
You're a pick-me girl?
No, like, I have my moments, but on average, not really. But the thing is
you're a pick a fight with me girl. That's more so your vibe.
That was really funny.
That's your vibe.
That was really good. No, so like, I think because I was raised, I grew up
in Arizona.
I was raised on a fucking farm. I was raised by a farmer.
You're a butch queen.
My
Come
poor
out and
dad.
say it. You're a tomboy. You're a butch queen.
My dad.
You save a horse and ride a cowboy.
The poor man raised 3 daughters. And so obviously he raised us to be like a little gruff, if you know what I'm saying, like gruff and rough. And so I do get along pretty well with men, let's be honest. But I am not a pick-me girl. But the problem is that, like, I get along well with guys, and I think it's because I am straight to the point. I'm like kind of no bullshit. I say things that people don't expect a like dainty little woman to say. And I think like men enjoy that, and like I get along with them for the exact same reasons.
Then they're so turned on by that. You're like a bro, but they just want to fuck.
Exactly. And a lot of women have this problem where they have friendships with men, but they know in the back of that man's brain there is some aspect there that like he would fuck, you know? So this actually became...
Pause. Is that not there for you?
Not always, no. It can be, but like no. So this became a point of contention for me recently because I was hanging out with a man who we called a realtor. I think I introduced him in a previous episode. I'm not sure, but basically if I haven't yet, he's just called a realtor because he's a fucking realtor. There's nothing to it other than that. He's super successful and we went on a few dates, and while we were out, we were hanging out one day and he was telling me this story about this girl that he used to date, and he was saying how they had gone on a few dates and had never had sex, but then at a certain point she said to him, she was like, I actually would prefer if we could just be friends. And he was like, yeah, like that's fine, we can just be friends. So he agreed to being friends with her. And then later on down the road, she expressed frustration to him because like he never wanted to hang out with her, he never initiated plans with her, like he wasn't participating in this friendship that they agreed upon. And what he had said to me while he was telling the story was like, well, like, obviously I don't want to be friends with her. And I'm like, I don't understand how you would date somebody and actively pursue somebody romantically, but not even like them enough to want to maintain a friendship with them. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, shouldn't friendship be baseline? I don't get that. That seems weird and fucking silly. Like, every one of my boyfriends from the past, goes to boyfriends past, every one of my ex-boyfriends, like I liked enough to, I would have been friends with them had like the relationship obviously not gone. Most of my ex-boyfriends hate me, surprise surprise, but like if I was living in a civilized world where the men I date weren't shitty and I also wasn't a psycho bitch, like I would be friends with those people because I loved them for that reason. You know what I'm saying? And so like straight men are just so unable to see women.
Do you think that your ex-boyfriends don't want to be friends with you because they can't remain friends with a girl like you just said? Or do you think that it's because you're just a psycho bitch?
It's probably the latter, but I'm not frustrated about that. I'm frustrated about the times where I have been that girl where I've been casually dating somebody and have decided, like, I think that we should probably just be friends. And the guy is unable to be friends with me. Like, for example, with Spit in My Mouth Man, like, after we went on our first date, I was like, I don't think this guy and I are, like, compatible in a romantic sense. There may be attraction there for sure, but like I think long term he's not someone I would ever fucking marry and procreate with. And so I asked him if he would be fine with just being friends, and he said yeah. But then even after he agreed to just being friends with me, he never stopped pursuing me romantically, which is like why we're in the position that we're in right now. So I'm not frustrated for any of my ex-boyfriends because they can all get fucked. Honestly, couldn't care less. You know, I can, but whatever. I'm more frustrated about the fact that like men just aren't able to do that, you know?
My thought was, you are friends with his friends, right? Like
who?
Spit in My Mouth Man, those like friends that we've hung out with and we've gone out with.
Oh, I know a few of them.
Particular people.
Yeah.
And like they have literally asked you like out on dates to like pursue you romantically. And I'm like, okay, so your friend is dating her and you are her friend, like, by default, but now you're asking her out on a date when she's dating your friend.
Yeah.
And also, we know who we're talking about, but I'm like, zero, that was
I
just
had
not
zero
happen.
interest. It would never happen in a million years.
But
like,
also because you're dating his fucking friend.
Okay, so basically the situation Chris is describing is one of Spit in My Mouth Man. Spit in My Mouth Man invited me out this one time, and I went and hung out with him, and I met a bunch of his friends. I became friends with one of his friends. We like follow each other on Instagram and stuff now, and I've seen him out a time or two since then. And he slid into my DMs and basically tried to come on to me and like kind of tried to ask me out at one point.
We thought he was gay.
There's speculation he could be. But basically like he knows that I'm fucking spit in my mouth man, but then he still tried to ask me out. And this is not at all in any way, shape, or form the first time this has happened in my life. This has happened to me multiple times. I remember back during the pandemic, I was living in Arizona and I started fucking this dude that I used to have a crush on in high school. And I was like partying with him because we didn't have anything better to do except for like party in like a group of 5. So we were like constantly drinking and partying together. And one of his friends that we were all hanging out with like invited me to hang out one night, and I had nothing better to do. And I went over and like hung out with him. We like drank a little bit and whatever. And then he tried to like come on to me, and I was like, I thought we were bros, dude.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I'm not going to fuck you. I fucked your friend on your own couch, and you're trying to come on to me like a week later. Like,
Dirty.
that
All
is
of it.
weird as fuck. Like, weird as fuck. I don't get it.
You were never really like dating Spit in My Mouth Man, were you? Or were you guys just like hooking up, or like what was the vibe?
Should we get into the story as to why he's called that?
Yeah.
But we'll do it. We'll go there. Yeah, we'll go there. So, okay, this is the story of...
I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but let's...
Everyone is going to hate him after this. Get ready. Buckle up. You guys are... From now on, when I mention him, you're going to have the same response
the full context.
as to why Chris has the...
I just cringe.
Every time I bring up his name. Okay. So... I could give a lot of detail and make this a really long story because there's some really fucking interesting twists and turns. Can I go there? I'll be quick.
Hurry up, the timer is running.
Okay, this is the craziest thing. I used to work in the fashion industry. I worked in sales. And I, first of all, hated my fucking job, which is why I'm unemployed now. But second of all, I had this account, which is a very well-known, especially in LA, well-known online retailer, right? And so I would work with buyers from this account. One of my buyers is a girlie who also used to live in New York. Love her dearly. She's so fun and cool. And she moved to LA like a little bit ago, maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I don't know. She moved to LA. And her and I connect because we're close in age, both living in LA, blah, blah, blah. I go to follow her on Instagram. We have a mutual follower. And I'm like, what the fuck? And it's this guy that I used to fuck in New York. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
I love when that kind of stuff happens.
I know, because we're like just 2 girls in LA. And then there's this random man in New York who, first of all, is actually quite literally one of the most physically appealing men I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Like, the symmetry in his face and his body, rock hard abs, a schlong. Like, this dude, I can't put words behind it. So I go to follow her on Instagram and I see this mutual follower and I'm like, no fucking way. And so I didn't see her again in person for another fucking 6 months. And I've been dying to ask her.
Oh, and you weren't
about
like
it.
Close enough with her to be like...
Correct. So I finally see her again. We like did like a work little thing. We did like a dinner, got a little hammered, whatever. I don't remember why, but I was reminded to ask her about it. And so I finally asked her about it. I was like, hey, how do you know this guy? And she was like, oh my God, we dated. And well, we were seeing each other, you know, and they used to hook up. They hooked up a couple of times and they literally were dating in New York like a month or 2 before I met him and started dating him. She eventually ended things with him. And then I met him and dated him for a little while, and then we ended things and whatever. So anyway, I know this term isn't PC anymore, but no one's given me a better term to use. I'm essentially Eskimo sisters with this girl.
Wait, why is that not a...
I don't know.
People don't like that term?
Yeah, it's like people get upset about that. I'm not sure why, and I probably should educate myself on that. But if someone's listening to this, just please tell me what we're supposed to call it, because I feel
Someone
bad.
please tell us why it's inappropriate. Is it because we don't want to offend the Eskimos?
I think we don't want to offend the Eskimos. Are there any Eskimos listening to this? Okay, so anyway, essentially me and this girlie, we're Eskimo sisters. I love her. So I break up with my boyfriend and she's like, now we're friends. And she's like, I think I might have a few guys I can introduce you to. She's like, let me think on it. Because she's like, I don't want to just introduce you to anybody. I need to pick a good one. She picked the fucking worst one, apparently, because in comes Spit in My Mouth Man. So she puts me in contact with this guy. He reaches out to me. we're texting. The banter is on fire. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like 5 seconds out of this relationship. I'm completely emotionally unavailable. But this is a cute moment. Like, we're really starting to hit it off. But I have a rule.
I was going to say, I think we have the same rule.
Yeah, I have a rule. I will not text somebody and correspond over the phone for very long before meeting them in person, because I've had too many times
where people are, again, not PC, it's socially retarded in person.
1000%.
And then they're just the funniest, wittiest person over text. And then in person, they can't look you in the fucking eye.
1000%. And like the text banter is on fire. And then you see each other in person and you're like, why do you have nothing to say? Speak.
That happened to me like on a date last week, but I think it was just because I wasn't interested in him.
That happens too. So yeah, I have this rule and I'm like, well, we have to meet up immediately because I'm not going to sit here and just text you the whole time. Like, this is cute and you're making me giggle and it's making me forget about how fucking heartbroken I am.
So how immediate did you meet up with him?
I think we gave it like 2 or 3 days. But the problem was I wasn't supposed to meet up with him right away because I was going out of town and my sister was in town. It was really, really, really bad timing. But I ended up being able to like leave work early one day because I was quitting my job already. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm getting out of here early. I'm going on this date with this guy. So we go out and we go on this date and it's cute and fine and fun. There were like a couple of red flags while we were on the date. The date was good except for he didn't ask me much about myself, which is always a turnoff for me because I'm sitting there like, babe, you don't understand. I'm the interesting one here, not you. And the fact that you're not asking about me is concerning because that shows that you think you're the interesting one.
It's also like rude, I think, when like this question isn't reciprocated.
Absolutely.
Like simply, oh, what about you? And then like, oh no, do you want to just start rambling onto something else? Like, no, bounce it back and let's fucking go from there.
Absolutely. So that was like kind of a red flag. And then it's like, because we were at a place that he's a member at. And so like obviously he knew people there and whatever. So while we're talking, his eyes are like flickering around the room. I don't know if that's even the right term to use.
Like scanning for people that he knows.
Yeah. And like he like sees a friend across the room and like is giving them eyebrows while I'm like telling him something about myself. Probably talking about like
I have to go.
I'm probably talking about like how traumatic my parents' divorce was on me as a 12-year-old girl. And he's waving at his friends from across the room. And I was just like, I don't really like that. But outside of those red flags, which honestly are big enough to be able to put an end to that, outside of those, I did enjoy his company. And so he was like, do you want to go back to my place? We'll have a cocktail and make out a little bit and then you can go home.
If I had a fucking nickel.
Literally. We usually like, because I already know I'm not going to fuck this guy because like I just got out of a relationship. I'm not mentally or emotionally prepared for that. And so if I'm like not mentally in the space where I'm willing to reject sexual advances because we know they're going to come, then I'm not going over to his place. But I do want to say I do thoroughly enjoy going over to somebody's apartment or home just because I like to see where they're living and like what we're dealing with. I
touched about this in one of the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was kind of intrigued, but I liked the fact that he owned... like, we're going to make out a little bit and then you can go home. I thought that like because he was being... I thought that because he was being upfront about the fact that we're obviously definitely going to make out, that like he wouldn't be annoying and take it too far. And like, obviously my judgment was impaired because that's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever said. So we go to his place and we're smoking a cigarette outside. He immediately starts making out with me and I'm like, okay, dial it back a little bit. But like
a dry cigarette tongue.
Kind of, yeah. And I'm just like, this isn't the vibe. And we also just got here. Like, can we get inside and like let me put my bag down and stuff before you like try to like shove your tongue into my
You
fucking...
weren't even inside yet?
No, we're smoking a cigarette outside.
Oh, I thought you meant like you went inside then went out onto a balcony.
Oh no, there's no balcony in this one. No. So we get inside and we're like, he's like making out with me, getting way too into it, and I'm just like, okay, we just met, can we dial it back a little bit? This is a bit much. I told him multiple times, we're not going to sleep together tonight. I do need to go home.
You're like, I'm actually quitting my job in the morning.
Yeah, like my sister's in town. She's literally at my house waiting for me to come back. I need to get out of here, whatever. And as we're making out, he literally asks me to spit in his mouth, and then in return asks if he can spit in my mouth. And for me, call me fucking vanilla, but I'm game to spit in each other's mouths, but on a first date, I'm like, my guy.
On a first date outside of your apartment while we're smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. We did make our way inside and things progressed from there. But I know in gay culture it is a little bit different, but in straight culture it's just like, especially if we went on like a proper date and it wasn't like he was just some guy from Tinder and he invited me over to his house to hang out or watch a movie, quote unquote. You know, like it was in that setting. Like we went to a nice place, we had dinner, had a few cocktails together. It was just like a bit much for a first date.
Did he spit in your mouth?
Yeah.
Okay. So you let him?
I did. And I told him before our date, actually, like when we were texting, I told him I just got out of a relationship. And so like, I want you to know, like, I'm not really like super emotionally available. And then so like on our first date, he just took things way too far. And I was just really turned off by that. I left his house feeling like a little annoyed because I was just like, I could not have been. It was very abrasive. He just took it too far, and I could not have been more clear in my communication of like, I don't want to do too much too soon. I just got out of a relationship.
Not even doing too much too soon. That's just like in bad taste.
No, I know, but like I'm just saying, like I did my part in communicating where I was at, and instead of meeting me there, he tried to push my boundaries, and I really didn't like that. And so I went home. I was really annoyed, really flustered with him. He texted me to make sure I got home safe, which I appreciated. And I did text him back to tell him I got home safe because I didn't want him like calling the police thinking I was dead or something. So he texted me the next day, and I had already told him I had taken the next day off because my sister was in town and we were traveling to go visit our other relatives. And because straight men don't listen to a fucking word that women say, he texts me the next day and says like something about like hope your day at work is going smoothly or whatever.
And you're just like,
and I'm like, had you listened to a fucking word I said, you would know that I was not at work today. So annoyed about that. And therefore he like tried to reach out to me a couple more times and asked to go out again. And I was basically like, I honestly think we would be better off being friends. And he took it very well. He was very like, he handled that great, right? And so I was like, okay, good. Like maybe this guy and I do have a shot at friendship, right? I liked him as a person, and just like that was too much. So then it's Pride weekend, the weekend that this conversation took place. And I know he does have a lot of friends of the LGBTQ community. And so in the same conversation, casually, I'm like, let's be friends. He's like, okay, that's fine. We can be friends. I was like, amazing. What are you doing this weekend? Are you doing anything to celebrate Pride? And he was like, oh, my company is actually putting on the Mariah Carey concert, but I don't know if I'm going to go. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like my friends and I were talking about going, but not sure if we're going to go, whatever. And then he's like, how many friends? I'll hook you up with tickets.
Slay.
I told him how many tickets we needed. He got me the tickets. Easy breezy, beautiful cover girl. And I was like, amazing. Like we're friends.
He redeemed himself.
We're friends.
Yeah.
And not only did he redeem himself, but then when I went to go get the tickets, they said there was only 2. And so I texted him and I was like, hey, like there aren't enough tickets. And he was like, oh, let me look into it. And then he texted me again and he was like, just letting you know, my friend who's handling the tickets is texting me back and is being responsive right now. So like, don't worry, putting my anxiety at ease as I'm like at the show, like waiting to get in, which I thought was really thoughtful. And I was like, wow, okay, actually
not
maybe
just like leaving you there to panic.
Exactly. Not just being like, let me check in and then just like being dry or going silent until the person, whatever. So I appreciated and respected him for that. And then I was like, okay, maybe I can fuck with this guy actually a little bit. And we hung out a couple more times as friends. I say in air quotes because he still tried to make out with me, whatever. Then as I got to know him as a person, I actually was like, I developed sexual attraction to him, which was not there before, but I'm slow when it comes to sexual attraction. It doesn't come easy for me. So anyway, I finally was like, yeah, I definitely want to fuck this guy. And so we started fucking, and he's been a problem since. He's a menace to my fucking life. I fight with him at least once a day. I have deleted his number multiple times. Like, this man is a menace to society. But anyway, to put it in long form, that is how he got the name Spit in My Mouth Man.
And there you have it. I know everybody was just dying to know.
Everyone was, actually.
I mean, it all
except
makes
for
sense.
Chris, because Chris is like, I can't fucking hear another word about this man.
That's true.
He also told us not to start this podcast, and so I need you all to give us 5 stars and follow us on Spotify out of spite for that fucking piece of shit.
Yes, we have to prove him wrong.
Yeah, so anyway, we were never like formally dating. We went on one date, and now we just fuck and fight, and that's it.
Okay, another thing that I kind of want to talk about is the verb dating.
Yeah.
I feel like people use it interchangeably with like, I'm seeing someone. I feel like there's different stages. It's like, oh, I'm seeing someone to find out if I want to date them. And then I'm dating someone to find out if I want to be like in a relationship with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like people use the term dating for either of those things. So it's like a gray
There's
area.
a huge
Like
gray
when
area.
someone says dating, I'm like, okay, but are you like,
Is that
are
your
you
boyfriend?
guys boyfriends? Are you guys boyfriend and girlfriend? Whatever. Are you guys just seeing
Have
each
you
other? How long have you guys
committed?
known each other? Like, I think this happened with my ex. Like, one time he said like something about us dating, and I was like, I beg your pardon. I was like, baby, we are not dating. I was like, we're not dating, and he was like, like we're not, what? Like panicking.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, bitch. Like, dating is when like, okay, I'm interested in you. Like, I'm prioritizing you over anybody else that I was talking to. Like, I still have some people sitting on the bench.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, you are priority.
We're seeing each other,
Yeah.
but we're not at the point where we've made ourselves like exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my ex said that like while we were exclusive, and he was
You're like,
freaked
we're
out.
not
And I was like, no,
fucking
we're
dating.
fucking. I'm like, we
We're
are like
in a
literally like
relationship.
farting next to each other. Like, no, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen when you're dating. When you're dating someone, like they're whining and dining you, or vice
Yeah.
versa, and you're like, you know,
It's like courting, essentially.
yeah, you're like
Modern
on your
day.
best behavior. You're like not like, you know,
Yeah.
playing the songs that you skip when like you're in the car together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like, dating somebody is very different than being in a committed relationship with somebody.
For sure.
But it's like comparable to the gray area of the words of like hooking up versus like having fucked. Because like people will be like, oh yeah, we hooked up. And like for some people that means like we made out and fucking fingered each other.
Yeah.
And for some people that means they penetrated me. You know what I'm saying?
Where do you stand with the term hookup?
If I say we hooked up, it probably means that like we fooled around, like we made out a little bit. There was some under the pants action. Because if I fucked somebody, I'm going to say like, oh yeah, we fucked.
Okay. I wasn't sure if there was like a context behind we fucked. More so like, you know, oh, we fucked, like, and that's all it was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh, like we met and we fucked and that was it. Like, or like,
Yeah.
oh, like we've hooked up before. Like you are kind of on good terms with them still and you still like them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I have more respect for somebody, I would say we hooked up with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
we hooked up with them.
yeah. I would say we hooked up with them.
I'm included in this.
Yes,
We're a unit.
yes. But I feel like, yeah, that can go either way. It can go like,
Yeah.
okay, like we just blew each other, whatever.
But now that we're talking about it, I do think that is a bit more gray versus like the conversation of like dating or like in a relationship. I think we need the rest of society to get on the page that we're on in terms of the use of the word dating.
Completely.
A lot of people are misusing it, and I don't like that because it also gets scary because like
Because people are like, oh no, we've been dating for like 2 years. I'm like, excuse me? Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Do you guys live together?
or like
Like,
I'll
what does
be
dating
like
mean?
in conversation for whatever reason, if it comes up with a guy that I'm dating, I'll be like, oh, well, like, yeah, we're dating, but, and then they'll be like, well, dating, like, they think that I'm
Panic
saying,
mode.
like, oh, you're my fiance.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it means that we go out to dinner once a week and then have sex 2 nights a week. Like,
Yeah.
we're dating. And then I also have another guy that texts me, good morning, beautiful, every single morning. Like, that is dating.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that, like, I'm like picking out fucking China for our wedding.
Sometimes.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
It's like, I think our theory as to like the way that term should be used is correct, and everybody else needs to get on board because it is being
I think most people would agree.
I think so too, but there are the few like stray cats that I'm like, shut the fuck up, learn the English vocabulary and modernize yourself a little bit.
What other terms are there? And then like seeing someone is like what you do before you're dating someone. But what is that?
Like, that's like a weird like in between.
I know, what is
so
seeing
it's
someone?
like,
but seeing someone can also be between dating and being in a relationship.
that's what I thought you were saying. So it goes dating, where
Well, what's before dating?
for me,
You're like, it's fucking.
yeah. You fuck first and then maybe you date.
Yes.
For me, it would be like dating is the first level because I can be dating multiple men at once.
But okay.
And I do that. One time I was in high school and I was dating 2 guys because the Minnesota-Arizona thing. I had a boyfriend in Minnesota and I had one in Arizona. But I was very transparent with them both about each other. And I asked my dad, like, is this unethical? Like, is it okay that I'm doing this? I was literally 15 years old. And my dad was like,
you're going to hell.
No, the most shocking part of this whole story. My dad was like, as long as like you're honest with both of them, I think you can date as many people as you want. And I was like, go off, Dad.
Okay, and that is the only piece of advice you've taken from him, and that you have revolved your life around.
That's
clearly.
why I am where I am today. Anyway, so yeah, like dating is like the first step for me. So like I can be dating multiple people at once, and like maybe one of them I'm having dinner with once a week, and maybe one of them like I'm like hanging out on the couch with and watching movies with. You know, so like there's always like a few little players, but I think I'm, for the sake of keeping it simple, I would just say like, yeah, I'm dating this person.
I think I would also classify it as that, but I just cannot date more than one person at a time because it literally gives me anxiety.
It overwhelms you.
And I just don't have time for that. And
I
don't
can.
like,
I'm
and I
like,
never find the stars never align where there's 2 people that I would consider dating.
I'm so game to be dating multiple people at once. I want to have like
An
2
abundance.
to 3 dates scheduled each week. And part of that is because I'm unemployed and don't want to pay for my own dinners. And also part of that is because I just like to be entertained and I like to go out and have interactions. And like I'm content with that, like having that sort of schedule / like roster. So basically for me, it would go dating, then you're seeing someone, and then that's when you have to kind of start telling people like,
Okay, then maybe I don't even know the right
I'm making this up as
context
we go.
of dating.
This isn't,
Because I think what I said was dating is what you are saying is seeing someone.
we're on completely different pages. Well, like, because like the only reason I would say that is because when you say like you're seeing someone, like that's when like someone reaches out to you and they're like, hey, do you want to get dinner? And you're like, hey, actually, like I wanted to tell you, like I'm seeing someone, you know, like, and then you use that phrase specifically, and so that's why I would say
that's actually
like,
smart. Okay,
seeing
so
someone is when
I don't know what I'm
things-
talking about. I don't know the definition of dating.
seeing someone is when things like progress past.
Okay, so
like,
seeing someone is when you have the others on the bench.
yeah. And they're like still waiting in the wings, but you're probably going to like kick them off the airplane at some point. And then...
And it's kind of one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't want them to lose interest, but I'm not showing any interest in them kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like you're like maybe slowly like cutting them off here and there. Like one gives you the ick a little bit because he like sent you a voice note saying good morning sunshine, and you're like, okay, I want you to know I'm seeing somebody.
I think I'm going to use it as an excuse once this other person texts me again because I can't look at him.
So anyway, yeah, that is my theory, is like you're dating. I mean, there's also like, if I say I'm hooking up with someone, it means like I would say I'm hooking up with Spit in My Mouth Man, because like he's most certainly not buying me dinner. Like he's hardly even giving me a fucking cuddle after we have sex. So like we're just hooking up. And then there's like dating, where like I'm like going on dates with people and like seeing multiple people. But then there's I'm seeing someone.
I'm really glad we've cleared this whole thing up.
What is the end goal? The end would be like I'm in a relationship with somebody, I guess. Like,
Well, I
this
guess
is
it'd
my
be
boyfriend.
marriage and then death, and death being married to that person would be the end. But yeah, being in a relationship.
Okay, yeah. That's the progression of, I guess, relationships. So we've covered all grounds from fucking cockroaches to life and death.
Exactly.
A gorgeous episode. I hope you guys
love
enjoyed.
that for us.
I
Who
hope you guys
thought?
enjoyed all of that.
And I hope we were a little more less chaotic and sporadic, based off of the feedback that we've received from you motherfuckers.
We heard that our last episode was a bit too much for everybody, so we tried to stay on track. But let's just keep in mind, we both have severe ADHD.
And we are very transparent that there's no point to this podcast. And just go with it.
We do
just
try
go
to,
with it.
We do try to make that a point, that we're just here to talk. And if you want to listen, listen. And we actually are begging you to listen. We're begging you to give us 5 stars. We're begging you to follow us on Spotify.
And you guys, we are, I think for right now, we're going to commit to releasing on Thursdays.
Subject to change, but let's expect that.
Yeah, we might kind of bump them up. But let us know. We interact with almost everybody that listens to this on a daily basis. So let us know what you guys think. We were both bothered this week. I was bothered because of my situation here with my roommate. You were bothered from another fucking straight man story. And
I like a week when you're bothered. I like it that you get to be a little cunty and like air out your grievances a little bit. It's good.
I just experienced something that was traumatic, so I have no choice but to be bothered. But okay, well, we love you guys.
Send the podcast to your friends. Follow us on Instagram, Hot and Bothered the Pod. Kill a cockroach. Suck a dick.
Don't do that. Go get tested. Go get tested.
Oh.
Slay.
Go get tested for STDs.
We support a
Chris and I
healthy
are.
sex life. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, okay. So then kill a cockroach.
And go get tested.
Exactly. Love you so
Love
much.
you.
Bye.
Bye. XO.